Oh, well.
Juggling lots of fun stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So, no, brilliant. So, Muriel, what have you been doing today, apart from walking along the beach?
We didn't actually go on the beach. We went to a park, which was actually on the Mersey, and spoke to all the fishermen there, and got wet. And yeah, it was nice. It was nice just to get out of the house for an hour.
Yeah, oh, good. Yeah, get some fresh air before you join in the fun this afternoon. So
absolutely.
Yeah, good. We can see some more people who are signing in as we speak. So we're going to be starting at 5 o'clock. This is the
ho ho ho.
Very good, Barnaby. Very good. Very good. Yeah, so we got Renata who's joined us already. Those of you who are being shy, do introduce yourselves in the chat and tell us a little bit about you and what your plans are over Christmas. Can anyone beat Barnaby for being totally outrageous? Do you reckon Muriel becomes first or second as far as that's concerned? So,
well, excuse me, Barnaby, do you do this?
I do.
Can you jingle like that?
Oh, dear.
Oh, it's not as good as yours by any standards.
Yeah.
No.
So we got Satya join us as well. Welcome, Satya. Yeah, whereabouts are you, Satya? Tell us where you are as well. It'd be nice to hear a bit more about you. So we're starting in about 1 minute's time, and yeah. So Alex, are you staying at home over Christmas, or what are you doing?
Yeah, we got the fun of our daughter lives in London in Tier 3, so we've got to make our decision as to what happens there. The areas around where we are have all just been moved into Tier 3. We're still in Tier 2, so it's not entirely clear what we can do and what we can't do. But
yeah. So I think everyone's in the same position with that one, aren't they? One way or another. So yeah. So I think this time rather than Liverpool leading the way, I think it's actually Kent at Barnaby at the moment. As far as that's
it is indeed. Yes, Swale in particular. Yes.
Yeah. So how far are you from Swale?
Far enough.
Yes.
Kent is a very big county, so it's probably 15 miles from where I am. I think so. So yeah. But my PA lives in the Swale area, so we've been exchanging viral emails on a regular basis. So it's
all socially distanced, of course, as you would expect.
All socially distanced, yes.
Good.
Of course.
Yeah, good. Yeah, so welcome everyone who's joined us today. Girish, nice to see you again this afternoon. I can see there's a few more behind the scenes who are still with us, but yet to introduce yourself. So please do introduce yourself in the chat. Obviously, if you tell us what your plans are a little bit for Christmas, what you're hoping to do. Really keen to make this a fun, lively event. I've got the obligatory, let's say it's mulled wine. It's actually not, it's red wine, but I'm going to enjoy it either way. So happy Christmas, everyone. And what we're going to be, it's going to be a very relaxed format today, as you can probably tell. And what we're going to be doing is covering, broadly speaking, these four things. We're going to be discussing as a group here what have been the biggest challenges this year. We'll try not to stay bleeding obvious, but obviously, hopefully from some of this, we'll be able to take some learnings away from it. Look at a little bit at the threats and opportunities for next year. What sectors are going to do best in terms of, we're going to ask each person to contribute with their own thoughts and ideas on that, and what we should put in place to consider adapting to the new business model moving forward in light of what's going on at the moment. But of course, this is going to be full of lots of fun, as you'd expect, just before Christmas. And I would suggest or invite you to fully engage in the chat. If you've got some ideas or thoughts on any of these 4 points, do share them. Because what we may do is invite 1 or 2 people onto the green room so you can actually join us live on the programme. So I can see a few more coming in. Damien, welcome. And David Davis as well. Welcome. Glad you've been able to join us. I don't know what it's like in Wales. I think you're experiencing even worse than we are down here, aren't you? So sorry about that. Yeah, so without further ado, I think what we'll do now is let me just get back to normal again. There we go. So you're interested to know, in terms of your perception of things. Perhaps, Barnaby, if we could start with you, what would you say have been some of the biggest challenges as far as this year is concerned, and what can we learn from that?
Well, I think quite clearly the changing nature of the workforce has been a really big challenge for almost all organisations, and what it has meant is that business owners have suddenly realised that their staff can do a lot more work for them and much more efficiently than they'd given them due care and attention for in the past. So what the working from home has meant is actually people have started working harder and working more efficiently and more effectively. And what that's really meant is that leadership, the nature of leadership has fundamentally changed in a very, very short space of time. So the big challenge, I think, has become for business leaders is how they lead their businesses now that they've changed so much. And with that as the surprise that their businesses can still work if they have the right systems and processes in place. So those have been the big challenges. Recruiting people when you need people, when you don't get to meet them, things like that. So there's lots of things about running the bigger businesses. From a smaller business point of view, the challenge is probably you're trading on personal relationships, and those have been very, very challenging when you only get to see the top half of people and you can't see what their hands and legs are doing. So it's a big missing piece. So I think the challenge for the smaller business is the personal relationships, and for the bigger businesses, leadership.
Right. Well, yeah. I suppose the big advantage with smaller companies, they haven't been forced to close down, is the fact that a big challenge or opportunity, I should say, is the fact that they're able to be much more nimble and adapt and change, I guess, which has probably helped. But thank you, Barnaby. Muriel, obviously, in your particular case, I hadn't realised it, but of course, gyms have had to shut down again, haven't they? Isn't that right? That Simon, your son, am I correct in thinking he's had to close down again?
Yeah, he has. But I mean, he's just doing. They're allowed to do one-to-ones in the gym, but they can't do group classes. So the group classes they will do online. When it's a decent day, they take it outside anyway. So he is coping, and he's coming down here next week anyway. So
yeah. So in Simon's case, he's been able to very smartly reinvent himself quite a bit over the last year, hasn't he, or 9 months?
Thank God, yes, he has.
Yeah. Whereas your other two sons, Daniel, for example, it's presumably not made much difference to him, but with your other son, of course, he's in Ibiza, so I'm not sure what the impact is there. But what's
Yeah, I mean, the impact on his villa hire, etc., has been devastating because, of course, the tourists weren't going over there. However, because the car rental places are all closed through the winter, he's just ploughed money in and bought loads of cars. I think he's got 7 or 8 now. And he said he's hardly seen them. You know, the locals who go over there for Christmas or whatever, or the winter period, he's been fully booked out. So, yeah, he's done all right. He's survived.
Yeah, good. No, well done. I think all your 3 sons are very entrepreneurial in the way they tend to think, aren't they? So, yeah. And Alex, what would you say some of the biggest challenge has been over the last 12 months?
I think the challenge most people appear to have had to face is how do they cope with the various stresses that are being placed on them in this current world. I won't say new world because hopefully it won't be the new world. It will change back to something hybrid between what we used to be used to and something better. But you look at the stresses people have been facing: emotional, financial, job security, and just pure bewilderment as well. But I think you then see that people are finding ways of coping with it now. I found it absolutely fascinating how people have embraced remote working. All the people who used to tell me, because I've been a big fan of remote working for years, all the people that told me it never works, it never works, it never works. Look how quickly they have adapted to it and how quickly they've become comfortable with it. Once upon a time, you would never see me on a video conference without a shirt, right? And yet today I've got a T-shirt. It was going to be a green one to make chroma key with some Christmas stuff on, but I ran out of time for that. So I think, look, like all things, you know, it's a pretty lousy situation, but it comes down to what are you going to make of it? And a lot of people I've been talking to and mentoring, I've been going through, you can either say, woe is me, woe is me, woe is me, or I hate the situation. I really don't like it. There's nothing I can do about the external situation. All I can do is drive my own situation and think imaginatively and laterally about ways of changing their business, ways of changing their life to adapt.
Yeah.
Okay? So, you know, like all these things, it's a crap situation, but if you try and find ways forward in it, and I know that's making light of it because a lot of people are struggling, but, you know, it kind of starts up here, how you're going to adapt. And imagination is the way out, I think.
That's great. I 100% agree with that. Now, thank you very much, Alex. And Karen, your thoughts on this as well, because you've got a very exotic family, haven't you? Because they're extremely well travelled, and somehow or another, they've all had their respective experiences, including your lovely daughter Lauren not being able to get back home to South Africa for a while, but she made the best of it, didn't she? And found very well. Tell us a bit more about some of the challenges that perhaps you and your family have faced, and what you're going to do to get out of that.
Yeah, well, I think it's all down to it's easy for some people. They embrace change. I think that's one of the challenges. It depends which camp you fall in. Are you welcoming change, or do you struggle with change? And luckily for our daughter, she runs a business in South Africa, as Rupert knows. She happened to be stuck here with us in Warwickshire during the first lockdown. And she runs a business that runs events for female entrepreneurs in various countries throughout the world, but they are physical events. She also is heavily involved in tech and has done webinars, so she has a lot of expertise. But she almost overnight pivoted her business from running online events where all these female entrepreneurs met together in the various cities throughout the world to making it online events using Zoom and the various other methods. And she took to it very quickly. And what was so good, and she's very lucky, she's a very inspiring, enthusiastic person, and she brought her team along with her. And I think this is the challenge. If you are at the head of a business and you're somebody who embraces change, loves it and wants to drive it fast, you need a team who works with you, who will help balance that out. But you also need the leadership to bring those people who aren't so enthusiastic about change and like the status quo, to bring them along with you. So I think I think she's a very good leader, but then being her mum, I'm obviously very biased, but she's certainly been very successful, and she turned her business around very quickly to becoming online. I think they're starting to go back to being a mix now. So I think the challenge for people is, if you're the type of person who embraces change and running a business, it's not so hard, because you actually are constantly like to evolve and change. But if you're not, then you struggle. And I'll use my son as another example. He's employed in a digital advertising agency in London, highly successful agency, not my son. Well, he's not doing badly, but they're growing enormously fast. But he's always been keen on remote working, being able to work from home. And the owner of the company, the founder, has never been quite so enthusiastic. However, suddenly everything's changed. And what is interesting is the owner of the company now is saying, well, actually, there are some advantages. The business is actually doing just as well as it was before. We're making just as much money. But guess what? I'm not having to pay enormous rent fees in London. You know, I don't need these enormous offices. And he's making all sorts of savings, not just on the rent. So my son, as Rupert knows, has just moved to Norway. And he runs a team of people who live in London. But his plan for the company is that people should be able to live wherever they want, unless there's a need to have the face-to-face with the customers, which personally I believe is the best way to sell face-to-face. But from time to time, as long as you can get back to the central core, which is in London, so much the better. So who knows where the world is going, but people are having to change their views.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, because I think the ones that actually will thrive are those ones which are very adept at changing. And I think your daughter Lauren's amazing, isn't she? Because you know, nothing seems to get in the way. It's this steely determination which pushes us through. but she makes the best of absolutely everything. And she was incredibly fast to flip her business model as well. It was quite a challenge for her, wasn't it? Because she had lots of chapter leaders in different parts of the world that she had to suddenly try and bring in another way. Good on you, and good on your family. Barnaby, if it's all right with you to pick on you again, if that's okay. What would be really good is to understand a bit more what you see as being the threats and opportunities for business leaders over the next 12 months, moving into next year.
Well, interesting. I think the threat and the opportunity are the same thing from my point of view. I think there is going to be a pent-up desire to get back to some kind of normal that Alex was referencing, and I think the moment the shackles are taken off society, it's going to be a bun fight over getting going again. And I think the opportunity is that I think we will see very rapidly a bounce back. But the threat is, because we've set new systems and processes alive in our organizations, that we might not be geared as businesses to cope with the sudden impact of an economy flipping very, very quickly. And we saw it with the Richie Dishy thing, that actually all the restaurants were completely full while everybody was getting £10 off their meal. And that, when you think about that logistically, suddenly everything filling up. So the business that survive, I think, are going to do really well. But the threat is then they're going to be overwhelmed with business, not know how to cope with it. Their temptation will be to take it all, and they'll start dropping balls. And I think the ensuing situation could be that we could recover very quickly. And then stutter again because we've overcompensated the other way, and we just won't be able to cope with it. So we'll have gone through a kind of really, really weird roller coaster ride in a very short space of time in an economy. Yeah. And I think that could be that's going to be something worth watching. Yeah,
I have to say, Barnaby, I 100% agree on that one. I actually certainly believe and certainly hope, and hopefully it may happen soon, but being realistic about it. I'm rather hoping, expecting that will start to happen around about the spring, summer next year. And I think that I would agree with you. I think it's going to be a massive pent-up demand. So, yeah, it's a big risk as well, isn't it, in terms of what you described? But the smart ones, being smart this time around, adapt and change, hopefully will recognize. I think everyone should take that as a lesson away from today, actually, because I'm going to certainly jot that down as a reminder for myself. So, thank you for that, Barnaby. Yeah, Alex, your thoughts on this in terms of threats and opportunities for next year?
You're asking me to make a prediction. If there's one thing for sure, any prediction is not going to be right, is it? Let's start with the threats. There are some industries that are going to suffer long term as we have changed, right? Quite how, not entirely sure, but retail almost definitely has had a seismic change. The use of the high street is probably going to change dramatically. There's opportunity there, but it's going to change from what we're used to. I worry from an economic point of view, the debt is going to have to be repaid somehow. And debt gets repaid through unemployment, taxation, or inflation, right? These are pretty tough things. Now, opportunities, again, come back to the economic side. Look at where governments are going to be spending money. At the moment, green energy looks quite an interesting area, both from a UK point of view and the rest of Europe, where you look at where governments have been spending money. So green energy could get exciting. Online shopping, that transition to that, there's going to be lots of opportunity around there, I think. I think because of the way that we have all started to embrace technology far more urgently now, security, IT security, is going to become an even greater area of opportunity if it wasn't already. And possibly the concept of pop-up offices, where, if we are moving out of the big centralized offices and the branch offices and have got more comfortable working from home, there will still be need and desire to get together. And you might start to see the rise of the pop-up office, Maybe hotels might decide, you know, it's still a bit uncomfortable for a while getting people in, but why wouldn't we use our facilities to create quick pop-up offices? Leisure, I'm sure a lot of people will embrace leisure as soon as they're allowed to, in a safe manner. And I think what will be interesting is when people are going for jobs, if they've been unfortunate enough to have lost their employment, there's going to be a couple of key things that are asked. One is, what did you do during lockdown? Okay. And so I think everyone needs to have their lockdown story of this is what I did, this is how I reinvented, or as I came out of it, this is how I've reinvented. The other thing that's going to be interesting, and I've been talking to a few employers about this, is they've got the opportunity to pick from the top of the crop now. So again, what is going to be important is how you differentiate, all right? And everyone can differentiate in some way. We've always all got a bit of something different about us to the next person, to the next person. So yeah, I think people have got to learn how to sell their interesting differentiation.
That's really interesting as well. One of the things I think the UK particularly, I know obviously some of you are joining from Europe today, by the way, Tom and Damien in particular, but I think one of the things we've been really very good at the UK is we're very, very quick to adapt to the new world order. I'm not specifically talking about now, but we're a nation of entrepreneurs. I think that looks at. So, you know, in theory, we should be quite well placed next year. Certainly, I would hope so. Muriel, I'm going to come to you in just a moment. But Karen, what are your thoughts about threats and opportunities for next year?
Well, I think one of the most dangerous threats, well, there are two. One is the economy, obviously, and the other is how people feel and humanity, basically. Starting with the economy, huge issues probably for the next goodness knows how many years. And one of the problems with that is how to fill the gap, how to address the gap that we're inevitably going to have. And I'm not talking about Brexit at all. Brexit aside, it's a huge problem. And I think the danger is that whatever we do, we must not have a major brain drain. And it would be very easy to do taxation or whatever that affects those people who we really need to stay in this country. We need them to carry on investing in business. We need the people who have got the wealth, who have got the money. And we want those people who have got the brains, the intelligence, the enthusiasm to be innovative and carry on building the economy in this country. It is very easy to move to other countries these days. So the challenge is how to retain that. And if we don't retain that, I think we'll have a significant problem, because they are the major contributors of the money that drives the economy and that looks after moving to the other threat, which is humanity, because there are those people in this country and the world who do need help. Anyone who needs help, I feel it should have the help. So it's how to sustain that, and it's going to be very difficult, because whatever happens, whatever the government decides in terms of taxation strategy, nobody likes having anything taken away from them. So it's going to be lose-lose all round. So yeah. I think those are the two threats, really. I think in terms of humanity and people, a lot of people have suffered emotionally in many different ways. And I think those people who perhaps don't realize they have suffered emotionally possibly have, and may find out that they have in some way, because it has been very stressful for everybody. We have not been able to live in the way we would like to live. So some people will be more resilient and will bounce back. And the question is how to stop a divergence happening within the population of the country between those who can and overcome stress and bounce back, and those who are really struggling. Yeah. So yeah. I think that's a huge issue. So yeah. Those I see as the two threats, really.
How about opportunities? Without going to sectors, we're going to talk about that in just a moment. What would you say some of the opportunities really are for next year, generally speaking?
Well, I always think there are opportunities. I think whatever happens, it creates huge opportunities. So I think for people who are open to opportunities and see every challenge, as Barnaby said, as an opportunity, there are new opportunities opening up all the time. And the bigger the economic shock or the change, the greater the number of opportunities that there are. I think particularly for those people who are innovative. The key thing at the moment is, I think we talked the other day, Rupert, about blank sheet of paper. Having a blank sheet of paper, thinking outside the box or outside the square and coming up with new ideas. And we have always in this country been known for our innovation. So the opportunities are to use your ideas, particularly learning from the way we've changed to a more technological environment, and come up with new businesses. And a small example, which isn't a technological one, but I thought it was a great one you've probably heard of, was the pub that didn't actually sell food, but they had a liaison with McDonald's next door, so they were able to remain open. And therefore, I think selling the McDonald's through food to their customers, brilliant idea. So I guess that takes me to another opportunity. Collaboration has been a key word in business, large corporates down to smaller entrepreneurs for many years, but I think it's becoming more and more significant at the moment. And that was a classic example of collaboration.
Yeah, no, lovely. Thank you. There's some really positive, interesting messages there, the positive ones. It'd be a bit of a question, actually, for everyone sort of listening here today, watching today, is do you think the UK, sort of moving forwards, is going to become a bit more of a Singapore-type economy, as a question? If anyone's got any thoughts around that, we'd be really interested to know. And also, if you've got any questions you'd like to feed into the group, or you potentially would like to come into the green room so we can bring you on stage, just tell us a little bit about what you'd like to ask, and we'll see if we can bring you in live as well. It's a bit of fun for today. I have seen comments by one of the people in the stream who said they've got a trouble with audio on this, so I'm assuming it's more on their end. If you could just confirm audio on your side is perfect, that would be great. I'm hoping it's just a local problem to that one person. But Muriel, let's come to you. What you consider to be some of the sort of threats this year, and what have been some of the opportunities?
I think the opportunities are there for some people, and I think it depends on the sort of person you are. I think you need to think outside the box, but not everybody's capable of that. So for those that have been or are capable of it, they seem to have survived and done quite well. I think it was Barnaby that said next year things are going to start happening. For instance, I'll use my son as the example. In Ibiza, the fact that they've had no tourists there this year, people are already inquiring and booking for next year. Okay, so I think things are going to be absolutely rife and go berserk out there, and it's can him or whoever has that sort of business deal with the quantity of work, because they're going to be super busy. That is my concern. Was it you that said that, Barnaby?
Yeah.
That's my main concern. But for me personally, I mean, it's been difficult because we moved and then we're in lockdown. But I didn't let it stop us doing anything. We were cautious. We wore our masks. We self-distanced. But we still went and saw all the Wirral and visited beautiful places. So I think it's the mindset of people. Fortunately, I've got John. I've got my partner. But for people who are alone, it can be totally different. And do you expect them to have the mindset when they're living alone and possibly not seeing anybody? It's quite tragic, and I really, I feel for those sort of people.
Yeah.
But personally, things have been okay. Obviously, when I moved up here, Rupert, we appreciated that I'd be working remotely anyway. So I'm certainly not travelling down every day. It's worked well, So yeah, it hasn't been an issue for me, thank God.
No, great. No, thank you, Muriel, for that. I think it'd be interested to hear, Damien, I've just seen your comment there, and also Pradeep, thank you for that. It'd be interesting to hear also from Tom in, what it's been like where you're living at the moment, in terms of where you're located, and Damien as well. How things are, the economy is coping up there as well, and what new opportunities have come out in a business context. What I'd be really interested to know as well is in terms of what sectors we feel are going to do particularly well next year. I know we talked about it a little bit, but it'd be nice to drill down a little bit, and particularly for those people who are taking part in the live stream today. I think it would be really good to get some insight in terms of some very large people we got on the show today, in terms of what opportunities do exist, what sectors are going to do very well next year. And it may be like a bit of a two-part question. It may be that in the first 4 or 5 months of next year, certain sectors will do better. Then as things return, then it may be others. So perhaps ladies first this time round, if that's all right. So Karen, can I come to you first? What are your initial thoughts on that one?
Sorry, Rupert, I was just checking on something. Could you?
Yeah. What sectors do you do best?
Other sectors.
Yeah.
So the sectors, I've been watching it hard because obviously it's difficult to know where to invest in terms of the share market. And initially, obviously, thinking about the pharmaceutical companies. But they've been going up. They've now started to settle down again. But potentially, if new variants continue, the pharmaceutical sectors may be good sectors to consider. Technology, I've always thought the fintech sector is and probably always will be a good sector to be associated with. But I'm sure there'll be some new sectors that evolve in the new year. And hopefully the hospitality sectors will start to bounce back. But I think it's going to be different from the way we know it at the moment. And I don't know enough about the hospitality sector to sort of imagine how that's going to play out. But I'm sure it will bounce back because people are desperate for more social interaction. And as you said, Muriel, your son's probably terrified that, you know, the island will sink under the weight of all the party goers.
Well, I think the people in Liverpool know how to party, Muriel, don't they?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think about what happened about a couple of months ago.
They certainly do.
Yeah. No, thank you, Karen. Alex, your thoughts on that one?
Was it said just now? I mean, it's kind of look at where money is being spent, and look first at where government is spending money. So green energy is, I mean, from a portfolio point of view, Karen, it's doing very nicely for me at the moment, green energy. If the Build Back Better initiative from Boris comes to bear fruition, then presumably, you know, there will be opportunity around construction and building. Transport is probably going to undergo some kind of change and turmoil. It might be worth looking at where the opportunity is around that. You know, money will be moving in transport in some way, and look at where the money goes. So, you know, you can't predict 3 days ahead at the moment, let alone 13 months, 12 and a half months. But I'd say I think the fundamental thing for me is look at where money is being spent and go after the money. It's the old adage, go after the money, follow the money, follow the money.
Yeah.
And you know, do that week by week, month by month. And, you know, it'll probably point you in the right direction.
Oh, lovely. No, thank you very much. Great. Muriel, could you have that link ready? And let's deal with two of our friends who are living in Europe at the moment. So, Damien, if you're up for it, let's bring you on air. And also, Tom, it'd be interested to get things from your perspective as well. So, Muriel's going to share a link with you in the chat. If both of you could just click the link, you'll be in the green room for a couple of minutes, and then we'll bring you in into the stage and return you back again, if that's all right. When you come across, by the way, just mute your speakers in the Facebook or YouTube channels, otherwise we'll get terrible feedback. Okay, so Barnaby, what's your perception of sectors that are going to do particularly well next year?
So I think the thing that you should be watching out for is, I agree entirely with Alex, is look where government money is being spent, and I think that's an astute thing. But also look at where people are going to spend their money. And I think one of the key changes is that more and more people have realised that life isn't just about work, and this idea of an idea that I think is abhorrent, work-life balance, is a complete nonsense. Actually, there's your life. And I think people have had a chance to really sit back and go, what kind of life do I really want? And I think people would err much more towards leisure than perhaps they've ever done before. So I think people will be looking much more to enjoy their leisure time more vigorously, rather than being slaves to the 9-to-5 job and then just getting home exhausted. Notwithstanding, because they can blend working from home, bringing up children, sharing responsibilities. They now, the power base has shifted from the business owners to the employees a bit more, for them to say, look, I want to create a job that works for me, which will then free up them to do more activities out with the family home, which we will have all been stuck in for a year or so, give or take. And so I think you'll see more leisure, more. I think there'll obviously be less restaurants, less pubs, because they're finding it very difficult. I think we'll see the arts come back very strongly. I think we'll see an appreciation of creativity come back. So I think I'm really hopeful that the demand will come from government side, as Alex says, but also from the people will say, actually, we want to design a life we want to live now. So I'd be looking for the kinds of things. So I think holidays, Ibiza holidays, I think gyms, activity clubs, I think young people will say, look, actually, we want more experiences. We're fearful if we get locked away for 12 months ago that we've got experiences and things like that. And so I think we'll see the experiential industry do well, the leisure industry do well. And if it's managed well, that can become a reset for the whole of way we work as a society, I think. And I think that could be very exciting. So I think the innovators in that area could do very well.
Yeah. No, Barnaby, thank you very much. Muriel, I don't know if Adam's up for it, because you've come up with some really interesting suggestions there. Can we see if we can bring Adam into the stream as well? So Adam, if you join us in the green room, that'd be lovely. And we'll bring on Adam in a second. Damien, I'm going to come to you in just a moment. So maybe a second. So just like magic, you've been transported live into the stream itself. So I miss your green screen, though.
Yeah, it's not working on the StreamYard, I don't think so.
Yes, that's true, actually. I couldn't position that beforehand, but there you appeared. So interesting enough, you actually got the best of both worlds, really, haven't you? Because you've got UK clients, you also got clients in Cyprus. But tell us a bit more what it's been like in Cyprus and where you feel some of the opportunities are going to lie as well.
So I can't comment on Cyprus, but I will add value where it comes to Sardinia.
Sorry.
Yeah. So the situation in Sardinia, we're part of Italy as the main governing body, but we are an autonomous region. So the president of Sardinia can make his own rules, and the government here, local government, can set their own kind of boundaries, etc. So we have to follow the framework within Italy. So we've had a relatively soft time of it. We have to wear masks when we're out in public, but we're not in any type of severe lockdown right now. They are going to bring in tighter restrictions over Christmas, so they're stopping you from travelling outside of the immediate area. But unemployment is very high in Sardinia because the main source of income right now comes from tourism. And tourism just stopped this summer pretty much, apart from local people really from Italy who were travelling to Sardinia, which is a big part of their tourism anyway. So the local economy has been suffering a bit. In terms of being the best of both worlds and the way that I've adapted my business, because I'm in coaching and training and running events of management training and leadership training, most of that is done now virtually. So it's quite easy for me to kind of adapt to the ways of delivering my message and the ways of connecting with my clients. And I'd already been doing that for about 18 months prior to the beginning of this year anyway. So I guess it just means I was doing more of what I was doing previously.
Yeah, lovely. Well, thank you very much. So over for you, has moving actually caused you problems in terms of everything you're doing now is all to do with remote working? Has perhaps some people fallen away because they feel that they're missing that little bit of personal interaction? I know a lot of it's been forced upon them because of the dreaded C word, as it were. But what difference has it made to you? It was interesting how you've been able to move your, where you actually operate from.
Yeah, so So I think the biggest challenge has been that when lockdown came into effect, I was actually in Poland at the time, and we got stuck in Poland, so we couldn't leave Poland, and our property in Sardinia was being renovated, and we couldn't get to Sardinia. So that was the biggest challenge, was actually getting here. And then the obvious challenges have been around the changes in legislation, and the UK leaving the European Union has meant that we've had to accelerate a lot of things like our residency application and our driving license swaps, etc. So all that kind of practical stuff has been under a bit of pressure because of the impending leaving of the EU. So we had to get our skates on and get that organised pretty quickly. So that were the kind of most challenging things. In terms of clients, a lot of my clients are global companies anyway. So typically, if I'm delivering a virtual training workshop around leadership or around innovative thinking or around mental fitness, then I'm talking to people from across the EU, across India, across Asia, and then often I've got clients across the world in the States and Canada, and so for me, accessing those people via the kind of Zoom and MS Teams, just to name but two, has been something I've been doing quite regularly anyway. So it's just kind of more of the same. What I have found is the technology has come on immensely. So I think the technology is now with us, and the connectivity is now with us. Whereas, taking Alex's point around working remotely, before you might be on a slightly clunky Wi-Fi that would mean your connectivity was interrupted, or the technology wasn't up to speed and your camera wasn't very good, or the sound quality wasn't great. Now the technology is much better and the connectivity is much faster. So it makes the kind of video conferencing so much better.
Yeah, no, lovely. Thank you very much, Damien. Well, I'll do, if it's all right, I'm going to return you back to the stream. You could rejoin by Facebook or YouTube, but thank you very much. That's been really good.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Season's greetings. Ciao.
Yeah, thank you. So let's have a bit of a look. I'm not sure whether Adam's been able to join us yet, but if you are, try and get into the green room. And let's pick out a few of these comments that people have made here as well, if that's all right. I can see, I think that's someone's come up with Facebook users. I think that is that Daniel, I believe. Yes. So you pointed earlier on, we should be very cautious about aspiring to get back to anything the same, and see if we should get forward into something better. Now, that's a bit earlier on in the conversation. Renato, you made a really good point about Regis. That was really interesting. Interesting if our son Sam is heavily involved with a co-working organisation. It's not Regis, but it's really interesting how they've been able to adapt their model moving forwards. I won't say too much on this there because I think some of it's confidential, but nevertheless, it's really interesting how these companies are adapting and evolving. Pradeep, thank you very much. Obviously, I know you're really interested in collaboration, so that's fantastic. So who else we got here? Tom, I think you've had trouble joining us today. I'm assuming it's your Wi-Fi connectivity, but you've talked about restaurants and hotels being particularly restricted. It's interesting about construction as well, isn't it? Because I think someone else made a comment a bit later on about DIY, and DIY has gone completely mad for obvious reasons, I guess. And Sathya, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing your name correctly. If I've got that wrong, I do apologise. But it's really interesting, as you say. I can see you've obviously made a point about the IT and software sectors doing well. And let's look at what else a few other people have said here as well. And Tom's made a point about the effects of travel, and DIY is booming, and but again, then there's another issue about trying to get around all your other commitments. And Daniel, you've mentioned a bit earlier on, or just recently, about the indirect challenges of family. I think this actually is a real issue, actually. For example, you're talking about having 3 children, and that could be a real issue. In fact, there's one of our clients who's actually is working from home himself, but also his wife is as well, and they've got 2 young children, and they're both under pressure with their respective projects, and trying to get that balance right. is quite difficult, but I can understand entirely. Adam, obviously, you've not been able to join us so far, but you've talked about landscapes having the best year ever. But I know landscape is certainly doing really well. And people seem to be investing in their gardens, home improvement, construction, summer houses, which people are converting to offices, and other ones doing well. People who are selling spas and also these outdoor tubs, I think, are doing well too, aren't they? So, yeah. And Tom's making a point about Dad always said you can't fail with food and paper. And Nikki, you've talked about supply chains and home improvement sector doing well from a year of working from home and reduced or no holidays, and kitchen office manufacturers seeing healthy demand. So lots of really good comments coming out here as well. And Nikki has made a point about adapting business and leadership coaching for COVID. Yeah, and also moving on to Zoom. I'll tell you what, one of the things I do apologise for, I did mean to properly introduce great guest this afternoon. I will do that a bit now. And also, by the way, Chris Cooper asked me to send his apologies to everyone today. He was being desperately trying to move things around, but he did warn me last week that he may have to, but he's been working with a large client in the Birmingham area, actually through meetings, rather than Zoom meetings. And he sent his apologies today, so it asked me to wish everyone a very happy Christmas. So with that, we will have a glass of red wine or mulled wine on him, but as I'm sure we all will. And Barnaby, I'd just like to say also a big thank you to Barnaby as well, because Barnaby's been rather madly a good friend for a long time, and invited me to his 57th birthday, because everything has to end with a 7 with Barnaby if you don't... for those of you who know him, and I think instead of your 50th or 60th birthday as well. Was that correct, Barnaby, as far as I was concerned? You're muted. You're muted, I'm afraid.
It was instead of my 50th.
Oh, instead of your 50th. Well, it was a very good party,
yeah,
I will have to say. So it was a very good one. But Barnaby, tell us a little bit about yourself, actually. And also you mentioned a bit earlier on about how some of your clients are perhaps moving to a bit of a new model as well to do that.
Yeah, I mean, listen. So I run an outsourced marketing agency. I'm a brand expert, so I've launched over 570 brands worldwide. Having become youngest MD of a top 200 advertising agency in '99, I bought that in 2001. Ran that into the ground over the next 10 years because everything in marketing changed, pushed out on my own. So now I work with corporate businesses to embed a methodology that took us 10 years to develop so that they become entirely marketing led from top to bottom. I'm currently mentoring 21 business leaders at the moment, and I'm a professional speaker. So I travel all over the world and educate audiences if they want to listen about how everything in marketing's changed and how you should be marketing led. Not that I'm biased or anything, of course. And then I write books and I write articles and do that sort of thing. So I keep pretty busy. I'm a NED on a couple of businesses, and I'm also a founding freeman of the Company of Entrepreneurs in the City of London. So I do a lot of outreach work, working with very young entrepreneurs across the business. What's been characteristic, I think, of my portfolio has been much the same. I had a really big beauty clinic, closed down. Actually, interesting, Karen mentioned about fintech. I think one of the problems with the fintech industry, I've been working with the fintech organization, but the government started giving money away, and that kind of flummoxed the fintech industry a little bit, particularly people who are lenders, and took out a whole alternative lending market in one fell swoop. So there's been some challenges there. I've got one of the UK's leading fit out companies. They're doing really well because construction sort of held up. And I'm working with a laser spectroscopy company. They're still building their business. And I'm also working with an apprenticeship company that specializes in apprenticeships for the STEM industries. And they're doing really well because, of course, there's investment in stuff. So it really is an ebb and flow on that one. Loads of pitches going on, lots of joint ventures going on, and loads of new ideas being presented to me on a daily basis, which is very, very exciting. So I think the entrepreneurial spirit is definitely alive and well. And I think people are just looking for where opportunities are, and to start and actually could shape the new world. And the adage that in 40 years' time, 90% of what we'll be doing in 40 years' time has not yet been invented. I think that may be accelerated a little bit now, because I think people have went, okay, I can take stock, I can take control. There's new ways of working. So I think we might look back on this period as being particularly awful and particularly good simultaneously. I think that's. I wouldn't want to be in government. I wouldn't want to have to make the decisions they're making. And I think my observation is, and I think somebody mentioned it earlier, those that are good at capitalizing on opportunity will do well. And those that are realizing they're beholden to the conspiracy will break free and start to do new things. That's my wish.
Lovely, Barnaby, thank you. Now, I want to ask our other three friends on this call the same question, but probably need to keep it a little bit concise, because I've got one other killer question I'd love to ask before we have a bit of a wrap up and celebrate with a glass of wine, as it were, together, as far as Christmas is concerned. But Alex, you keep on telling me you've retired, but it's not really happened, has it? Unfortunately, I've probably not helped with that. But tell us a bit about you. I'd love to know a little bit more.
So my background was nigh on 40 years in IBM, both technical manager and executive, running pretty large organizations, large revenue, large profit, large numbers of people, and so on. But I retired, 2.5 years ago or so. And now I do what I want. And I used to say that a little flippantly. And then after a while, I decided it was actually a very true statement. I do what I want, which means I do the things that interest me. What interests me is solving problems and helping people, right? So I have acquired, because I haven't gone out to find them, I've acquired a growing troupe of business leaders, managers, senior professionals, who I basically act as a sounding board for around marketing, sales, ideas for growth. And so, it just fits in with this problem solving thing and helping people. And it never occurs to me, I will take anything apart. You give me something, I will take it apart, right? And it never, ever, ever occurs to me that I can't fix something or I can't do something, right? I can end up with one holy mess, but it always comes together in the end. I was just thinking, when you asked earlier about, almost, I said predictions and so on. About, whatever it was, 12, 13 years ago, I was part of a panel that was being interviewed by Sarah Montague, who was one of the interviewers, the presenters of the Today program. And Sarah said to me, when do you think the recession is going to end? But before I could say anything, one of my colleagues decided to get in first, because they knew I would say something flippant. And they said, well, we don't really know, bum, 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 bum. And I said, I do know when it's going to end. It's going to end on a Wednesday. I can't tell you which Wednesday, and I might be 3 days wrong either side, right? And fundamentally, what it means is you can't predict the damn future, right? All you can do is seize the opportunity it gives you.
Yeah.
Right? And this pandemic will end on a Wednesday, and I can't tell you which Wednesday, and it might be 3 days either way, but I'm damn right on it ending on a Wednesday, 3 days either way, right?
Yeah.
When it ends, seize the opportunity and make the most of it. Go out. Don't let it occur to you that you can't fix something.
No, I love it. It's a bit like that story about the a clock that has stopped. That one thing you could be sure of is twice a day it's going to be 100% accurate. No, I love that, Alex. Thank you very much. Karen, now you're an interesting person, aren't you? Because you have got lots of interests. You've been mad enough, along with Alex, a range of different things. You're also incredibly well travelled. So what's your background a little bit, and how's that been able to help you moving forwards?
Well, my background is very long, so I don't think we have an hour left, have we, Rupert? But very briefly, it started out in IT and management consulting, and I also worked for IBM. Not as long as Alex, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time, so I can see how you'd have a wonderful 40 years in IBM. I was in New Zealand with IBM as it happened, although I'm from the UK, and I worked for Gemini in management consulting. Then I moved into, I did an MBA actually at London Business School because I just love learning. And I think you can never stop learning. Interesting thing they said on day one at of the MBA, though. There were 70 of us sitting there, all thinking we were pretty special. And the lecturer said, well, let me tell you something. All those people who are going to make it in business and be successful entrepreneurs, they're not here. They're out there doing it. Mm-hmm. That was an interesting day one. But I have worked with large global companies, small companies, SMEs, been a coach, as Rupert knows. I was a chairman, or chair as they're called, of a company called Vistage. And I had 12 CEOs who I coached, mentored over about 3 or 4 year period. And they had smallish firms right up through very large global well-known firms. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. And I learned a lot from actually coaching them, and they taught me a lot, as I said. So I've set up businesses. I set up businesses in the UK, and I've set up businesses in Australia. I love being entrepreneurial, and I think where the world is going is that people are managing their own careers more, and have been for a while, but a lot of people now have been forced into becoming entrepreneurs, and it gives them the control that I think you might have mentioned, Alex, over their own lives. And the power, as I think Barnaby mentioned, is going to shift more to the individuals rather than the organizations. So my current interest, well, it's always been the same, is very much like Alex. You call it problem solving and helping people. I call it challenges, solving any challenge and helping people, but particularly entrepreneurs, small, medium-sized businesses, where, well, as you know, Rupert, where there are so many opportunities, and it's just a question of giving them a little shove in the right direction sometimes.
No, lovely. Thank you very much, Karen. Muriel, you're mad enough to work with me. So what are some of your takeaways? Or not takeaways, but what would you like to say around all of this?
Well, if we're looking at what Karen said and Alex said, so I've always been in admin of some sort. Always progressed in all my jobs to senior managerial, because I'm a hard worker and I love what I do, and I just want to progress. I think out of all the jobs that I've had, the one that had most impact, or the biggest impact on me, was 6 years in a care home. I was hospitality manager. I marketed the home. I sold the rooms, developed a very strong relationship with the family members. But it just opened my eyes to older people suffering from dementia. And I'm starting to well up already. Oh, wow. It's really, really tragic to see what they go through and what the families have to go through. So that had a big impact on me. And I suppose I really, really enjoyed that relationship that you build with people. Hence I enjoy working with people and developing a relationship now. I suppose that's just in me. But yeah, that was a huge impact.
Yeah, that's lovely. Muriel is, and that's one of the reasons Muriel's so good at what she does. She cares about all our clients and everybody else that goes with it. So thank you very much, Muriel. Now, there's one question I'd love to finish up on, and then we'll have a quick wrap up, and will everyone enjoy the party after the show's finished today? But the question really is, we've probably answered already, but so if anyone's got any closing thoughts around how we should adapt our business model moving forwards. Obviously, we've highlighted some of the challenges that are going to happen early next year, but also some of the opportunities. But any sort of closing thoughts? Perhaps Barnaby, you on that? Closing thoughts on that particular point? Your microphone's muted, Barnaby.
So, yeah, I think for me, it's actually, the word adapt is a very dangerous word, and I think we have to be really careful about that. I think what we should be doing is recognizing your expertise in your subject matter and locking that into your value proposition, and making sure you absolutely understand what the value is you bring to the relevant marketplace. But then what you should do is look for new ways of distributing that value. So look for new ways of distributing the same value. So stop trying to reinvent your core value. Stick to that, because that will be wanted just the same as it always was, but find new ways of distributing that value into the marketplace. So, and that, if you do that and embrace that, you'll be able to deal with a much more dynamic marketplace using the same thing you were always very good at. Don't try and invent and be good at something else that you're not good at. So I think stick to your value proposition, find new distribution channels, adapt to that.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much. Lovely. Alex, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, totally agree with what Barnaby said there. Don't be afraid, I think is probably the best way I can sum it up. Those people that do nothing are the ones who should be afraid. Don't be afraid of doing something.
Now, remember that thought that it's just shared on that one there, because we're going to be talking about that in just a second, but not just yet. Thank you, Alex. It's a very good one. Muriel, how about you?
Positive, keep smiling. Things will get better. It might be a while. I can't see it happening till July, August next year, please God. But, you know, there are opportunities, and we can all go mad and holiday and enjoy life again.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much, Muriel. I know you like the old party or two as well, so you'll be looking forward to that and seeing your son in Ibiza. Karen, any thoughts about how people should be considering adapting and changing their model moving forwards?
Well, I totally agree with what the rest of the panel have said. I think it's fundamental to think about what your strengths are, what you're good at, what your skills are. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, and make sure that if you stick with those, you will enjoy what you're doing. If you enjoy what you do, the chances are you'll do it a lot better. And let's face it, you spend an awful lot of time doing it, particularly if you're an entrepreneur, because it's a fallacy that entrepreneurs don't work hard. They work 24/7. And if you enjoy something, you tend to keep doing it because you enjoy it, don't you, Rupert? We all do. But I'd like to add to that, I think the other thing is that one of the advantages of being a small business is that you can try things out, be brave, test it out. Market testing, it used to be called. But try it out. Listen to what you think is going on in the marketplace and put something out there through whatever channels, as Barnaby was saying, and see if it works. And the great advantage is if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. You try another one. You don't waste any more time on that. If it does work, you've struck gold and keep going.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you. And just to add to that, actually, Karen, thank you for that. We last week, a number of our clients and very kindly agreed to take part in a closed focus group last week, which has actually helped us to shape our plans starting from January next year. Now, Daniel, I know you couldn't make it. Was hopefully speaking next week or so. I know Muriel's reached out to you. But I think that's a big thing as well. You actually ask your existing customers or potential customers what they want. And then fundamentally, if you can deliver it, then try and give it to them. So, but no, thank you. I'm just going to do a 2 or 3 minute wrap up, and then we'll have a closing comment, very brief closing comment for each person, and go from there. So just give me a second, if I can get this right. There we go. In fact, a moment ago, I said to Alex, could he hold that thought? Or let's remember that thought. Ian is joining us. Ian Randall is joining us. We've got a 2-week break coming up, obviously, because we're not going to have one on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, as I'm sure you can understand. And it's very much about suffering with overwhelm and how we can make 2021 your year for growth, how to deal with decision paralysis and how it can kill your business by taking no action, and why you have to be a player, not a spectator, to win. The importance of diversification and why you should have more than one source of income. And we also be looking at the new year, new beginnings, how to make this year truly amazing. This year being 2021, by the way, amazing, and extend beyond the New Year's resolution. So I thought it was a great series of topics that Ian's wanting to share with us. And just a quick reminder, as from get the dates right, as from the 7th of January, these live streams will be starting again. So in other words, I think it's 3 weeks from now, actually. 3 weeks from now, these will be starting again every week. Hopefully Chris will be joining us then as well. And then so these live streams are every week with different person joining us each week. And then the networking collaboration sessions, they've moved to a monthly format, which is restarting again on the 14th of January. So the 14th of January will be a double session like it was before. The weekly ones, the other 3 weeks every month, will be live streams. So do feel you can join in like previously. And we've got our next mini conference, a bit of a different theme this time round. Because this is based on the funding from our focus group as well. It's very much about bringing your sales forward, amplifying your brand, and giving your time back. So that's the main topic of the conversation of the mini conference. That's free. Starts at 2 o'clock GMT, finishes at 5:30. There will be a competition, but a bit of a different competition to what we've had before. There'll be lots of discussions about marketing sites and bonus content, especially around LinkedIn. You know, that's a core competency. But lots of things around about running live streams, video, the importance of repurposing content and using leveraging methods of leveraging your content to get it across multiple streams. So very, very relevant for what's moving into next year. And in terms of registering for that or for any of the live streams, from the homepage of our website, you can do all this from the homepage. If you're choosing the Thursday sessions, you can actually choose the recurring option and book in multiple weeks. And the ticketing system, we're having to have a slight wrestle with that at the moment, because obviously we've got this 2-week break over Christmas, or 3-week break over Christmas. So if you get the odd reminder of it, we're not quite expecting, please bear with us. We're trying to deal with that right now. But fundamentally, you still register in the same way. If you've got any guests you'd like to invite in, please feel free to do so. I know Pradeep talked about collaboration a lot. The theme of today has been around that. What I would say is collaboration, networking, exchanging ideas. This is what these live streams are all about, these networking collaboration events. Everything should be built on a deep relationship of trust. That's really important. And it's because of you guys. And Barnaby, you've contributed to this program twice already. Alex as well, thank you for yours. Karen, this is your first time, but obviously a very good session by you as well. So thank you for that. But just think about other people you can help within the community as well. We are very much here for you. We want to support you. We recognize that running a business, whether you're running a small business of one, or like Renato got a team of 500 people reporting to him, it can be a very lonely journey. And we're here to help you in that growth. If you're join us via Facebook today, hit that reminder. If you could very kindly share as well, that'd be really appreciated. And on YouTube as well, if you want to subscribe to the channel and equally like it, again, that's always appreciated, because that gives us more currency and more traction on the social platforms. So that's really good. In terms of contact details, obviously Barnaby and Karen and Alex have shared their time freely today to make today's show a very fun event. So do reach out to Barnaby, Karen, or Alex. Their email addresses are there. If you need further contact information, do drop me a message and I'll make sure I put you in touch. And I think on that note, what I'd like to do is just to say a very big thank you for everyone in taking part today. Do have a wonderful Christmas. A glass of mulled wine or red wine or whatever your poison is today. So happy Christmas, and we'll see you in 3 weeks' time live on air. So thank you very much, everyone. Happy Christmas, Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Take care. Thank you very much indeed. And the rest of you stay in the green. But thank you. Have a great Christmas. See you in a few weeks' time. Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye.